The Supreme Court has taken up a new Second Amendment case. This time, it's about an issue that we at GOA have been fighting for a while. I'm specifically talking about Section 922G3, or the prohibition on persons using intoxicating substances from owning firearms. In this case in particular, marijuana. But there's one problem with this case. The worst possible plaintiff and the worst possible set of facts possible were selected to bring before the Supreme Court to challenge this statute. And so today, we're going to talk about that case, U.S. v. Hamani. I'm Phil, and you're watching Law and Ammo. Did you know that Gun Owners of America is fighting for your rights every day? Recently, GOA halted universal background checks in Virginia and removed the taxes on NFA firearms, leading to our lawsuit to abolish the NFA completely. If you aren't already, go ahead and visit gunowners.org and become a member. We're working on abolishing all gun control, and we can't do it without your help. Now back to the video. So the Supreme Court recently announced that they'd be taking up the case U.S. v. Hamani. The question presented to SCOTUS by this case is whether 18 U.S.C. 922G3, the federal statute that prohibits the possession of firearms by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to any controlled substance, violates the Second Amendment as applied to the respondent. GOA has fought for the right to own a firearm for those that legally use marijuana, which remains illegal federally, but has been completely legalized in 24 states and legalized in 40 states for medical use. But because of 922G3, those who partake in the legal consumption of cannabis are barred from owning firearms, becoming prohibited persons. We at GOA are opposed to anything that would prevent law-abiding citizens from accessing their Second Amendment rights. If those states choose to legalize marijuana and treat it like alcohol, those who partake in a legal activity should also be allowed to keep and bear arms like the Constitution says. Now that question comes before the Supreme Court, but there's just one issue. The plaintiff that the case centers around, Ali Hemani, is a suspected terrorist. But why would that be the case? We'll get into that a little bit later. But first, some background on this case. U.S. v. Hamani started as a firearms charge against Ali Hamani, resulting from an August 2022 raid on his house. During the raid, FBI agents found a Glock 19 pistol, 2 ounces of marijuana, and a little less than a gram of cocaine. Under Section 922G3, the possession of drugs and firearms together is a felony. In addition, the government also filed a motion for pretrial detention where they wrote, "This is a unique criminal firearm case. Unlike most defendants indicted on firearm charges, this defendant not only abuses drugs and possesses a firearm, he also has strong links and frequently travels to countries that do not have diplomatic relations with the United States, those countries being Iran and Iraq. And he is a dual citizen of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and the United States." Hamani remained in jail for 7 months awaiting trial. And finally, on August 30th, 2023, the district court dismissed the case. Well, why? Well, around this time, the Fifth Circuit had recently decided U.S. v. Rahimi, a case which viewers of this channel will be familiar with. In that case, the Fifth Circuit ruled that 922G8 was unconstitutional. For those unfamiliar, 922G8 prohibits gun possession by anyone under a domestic violence restraining order. The Supreme Court later overturned the pro-gun decision and watered down its Second Amendment precedent. We did a video on U.S. v. Rahimi. I'll link to it in the description if you're interested in learning more. There was also an additional case that added to the judge dismissing the case against Hamani. That was Daniels v. United States. In that case, the Fifth Circuit ruled that prosecuting a marijuana consumer for possessing guns was unconstitutional. In their decision, the Fifth Court wrote, "At no point in the 18th or 19th century did the government disarm individuals who used drugs or alcohol at one time from possessing guns in another. Our history and tradition may support some limits on an intoxicated person's right to carry a weapon, but it does not justify disarming a sober citizen based exclusively on his past drug usage. But Daniels v. the United States isn't the case before the Supreme Court, and there's a reason for that. In U.S. v. Hemani, the DOJ has chosen a plaintiff who they've argued in their own brief was poised to commit fraud at the direction of affiliates of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, a designated foreign terrorist group. He also traveled to Iran to participate in a celebration of life of Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general and terrorist killed in a drone strike by the Trump administration. The respondent's mother was captured on video telling an Iranian news agency that she prayed for her two sons, including the respondent, would become martyrs like Soleimani. And finally, respondent has told law enforcement that if he knew about an imminent terrorist attack by a Shia brother that would kill innocent people, he would not report it to the authorities. And so with U.S. v. Hamani, what we have is a plaintiff that is so irredeemable that the court has no choice but to grant the DOJ a victory. We've seen the same exact playbook before from the Biden Department of Justice in U.S. v. Rahimi. Rahimi was facing 10 state-level felonies, but the DOJ completely focused on Rahimi's violation of a domestic violence restraining order. The Biden DOJ used the Rahimi case to weaken the Bruen decision, knowing that the plaintiff was so bad that the waters of the case would be muddied. This ended up working. Rahimi now stands as bad case law, with only Justice Thomas defending the Second Amendment in his dissent. And while the Biden administration didn't get everything they wanted, the decision didn't help gun owners whatsoever. Now we're facing the same thing with the ban on those who use marijuana and possess a firearm. The law that Hamani was charged with violating applies to millions of Americans who pose no plausible threat to public safety. We at GOA will be filing an amicus brief in this case, and we'll keep you updated as it develops. Thanks for watching. This has been Law and Ammo.